Bonjour Paul.
Bonjour Estelle.
Ça va?
Ça va bien, merci.
Today we'll learn how to introduce yourself to someone.
In case you want to make new friends.
Exactly. Of course, you already know my name is Estelle, but to introduce myself in French, I'd say Je m'appelle Estelle.
Oui. And I would say Je m'appelle Paul.
Let's hear that again. Je m'appelle Estelle. Je at the beginning means I.
Je, as in je voudrais un café. I would like a coffee.
That's right. The second part, m'appelle, has two words. Me, which means me or myself,
Me
and appelle, which literally means call.
appelle.
Right. So when you put it together, you get I call myself. Je m'appelle.
This is how the French say my name is. Notice how it blends together. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle.
Let's practice. Repeat after me. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
After introducing yourself, you probably want to know your new friend's name. For that, you'd say Je m'appelle Estelle, and then ask Et toi?
Je m'appelle Paul. Et toi? We've used et toi before, like when we learned how to say ça va bien, et toi?
That's right. Et toi means and you? It's useful in a lot of conversations.
Remember that toi is a more informal, friendly way of saying you. If you were in a formal situation, you need to use vous. Et vous?
Et vous?
Let's hear et toi and et vous from other French speakers.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Sophie. Et toi?
Je m'appelle Marc.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Marie Mouret. Et vous?
Bonjour, Madame Mouret. Je m'appelle Louis Bourdon.
Your turn again. Repeat after me. Et toi? Je m'appelle Paul. Et toi?
And let's say the other person does tell you their name. You'd probably want to respond with something like, Nice to meet you. In French, you'd say, Enchanté.
Enchanté. That literally means enchanted.
Yes, enchanté is a way to tell another person that you are delighted to meet them.
And everyone is always delighted to meet me.
Oui, Paul. Whatever you say.
Bonjour,
Bonjour.
je m'appelle Elsa. Et vous?
Enchanté, Elsa. Je m'appelle Louis.
Enchanté, Louis.
Ready for more practice? Repeat after me. En. Chant. Enchanté.
Now that we know how to introduce ourselves
For example, je m'appelle Paul
and how to ask for the other person's name,
by adding et vous or et toi at the end.
and finally how to say that we are delighted to meet them,
Enchanté.
we can now move on to other questions in French.
Like asking where someone's from or what their job is.
And for that, we'll see you in the next lesson. Last time, we learned how to say my name is in French. Je m'appelle.
And nice to meet you. Enchanté.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Thomas. Et toi?
Enchantée, je m'appelle Sophie.
Once you've introduced yourself, you might get a follow-up question like, where are you from?
Right. In English, you'd say something like, I'm from France. In French, you'll say, je suis français.
We already know that je means I.
Yeah, like in je m'appelle.
And the next word in je suis française, suis, means am, as in I am. Let's hear that again. Je suis.
Je suis. I am.
Je suis français.
Je suis français.
Je suis français.
Okay, time to practice. Repeat after me. Je suis français. Je suis français.
You might remember that French nouns can be masculine or feminine.
And that's the reason we'd say, for example, un café, but une pizza. We use un for masculine nouns like café, but une for feminine nouns like pizza.
Yeah, and this also applies when you're talking about people. So, as a woman, I wouldn't actually say je suis français.
Right, because français is masculine.
Instead, I'd say française.
Française. Notice the change in the pronunciation,
Française. Je suis française.
but I'm a man, so I'd say français. Je suis français.
Française.
Français.
Je suis française.
Je suis français.
Now let's hear it on the streets of Paris.
Je m'appelle Marc. Je suis français.
Je m'appelle Marie. Je suis française.
Je suis français.
Je suis française.
Your turn. Let's practice the masculine form, français. Repeat after me. Français. Je suis français.
Now let's practice the feminine form. This time, repeat after me. Says. Française. Je suis française. Let's add some other nationalities. Let's say you're from England. If you were a man, you'd say Je suis anglais. I am English.
Je suis anglais.
Notice how the ending of anglais is very similar to français.
Both are masculine, and although they both end with an S, you don't pronounce it.
So an Englishman would use anglais, but an English woman would say anglaise. Je suis anglaise.
Anglaise. Notice how you do pronounce the S in that case.
Let's listen to two women introducing themselves to each other.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Sophie. Je suis anglaise. Et toi?
Bonjour, je m'appelle Marie. Je suis française.
And now two men. Try to notice the difference.
Bonsoir, je m'appelle Louis. Je suis anglais. Et vous?
Bonsoir Louis. Je m'appelle Thomas. Je suis français.
Okay, introducing yourself is a great way to start a conversation with a new friend. But how can we keep it going? What other questions could we ask?
Well, you could ask where your new friend lives or what kind of job they have.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's just what we'll talk about in our next lesson. So far, we've learned how to introduce ourselves in French by giving our name and where we're from.
Right, let's hear it in a quick dialogue.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Elsa.
Enchanté Elsa, je m'appelle Louis.
Je suis française. Et vous?
Je suis anglais.
Now let's add to the conversation by learning how to talk about where you live. Imagine you meet someone who lives in Paris. They would say, J'habite à Paris.
J'habite à Paris. I live in Paris.
That's right. J'habite means I live. J'habite.
J'habite. J'habite is actually two words. Je, which you already know means I, and habite, which means live.
In French, when one word ends in a vowel, like je, and the next word starts with a vowel, like habite, we sometimes contract the two words. So instead of je habite, we get j'habite.
We saw this when we learned how to say my name is, je m'appelle.
Right. Instead of me appelle, we say m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
By the way, habite technically starts with an H, but since the French H is silent, we treat it like a vowel.
Habite. J'habite.
That's right.
And then to say I live in Paris, you'd simply add à Paris at the end.
J'habite à Paris.
J'habite à Paris. Notice how the S at the end of Paris is silent again? Paris.
Paris. J'habite à Paris. Let's practice. Repeat after me. Paris. J'habite. J'habite à Paris.
When we say j'habite à Paris, the à means in. I live in Paris.
So if someone lives in the lovely French town of Bordeaux, they'd say j'habite à Bordeaux.
Or if they live in Berlin, they'd say j'habite à Berlin.
J'habite à Berlin.
Berlin ends in in, which in French becomes un.
Un. Another nasal sound.
Berlin.
Berlin.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Marie. J'habite à Bordeaux.
Enchanté, je m'appelle Thomas. J'habite à Berlin.
Your turn. Repeat after me. Berlin. J'habite à Berlin. What else would you want a new friend to know about you?
How about your job? We already know how to say I am. Je suis.
Je suis, as in je suis français.
If you were a professor, you'd simply say je suis professeur.
Je suis professeur.
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 Je suis professeur. And if you're a journalist, you'd say je suis journaliste.
Je suis journaliste.
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 Je suis journaliste.
All right, let's practice. Repeat after me. Professeur. Journaliste. Je suis professeur. Je suis journaliste.
Now let's put all this together for a nice long conversation in French.
Good idea. We already know that and is et, as in et vous or et toi.
So I could say je suis française et je m'appelle Estelle. I'm French and my name is Estelle.
And I could say je m'appelle Paul et j'habite à Paris. My name is Paul and I live in Paris.
Bonsoir,
Bonsoir.
je m'appelle Marie. Je suis française.
Enchanté, Marie. Je suis français et je m'appelle Marc. J'habite à Paris. Et toi?
J'habite à Bordeaux et je suis professeur.
Ah? Je suis journaliste.
That was great.
You're all set to use your French to make new friends.
Yes. Now get out there, be delightful, and make people mean it when they tell you enchanté.
Au revoir.
À bientôt. We've just learned a few phrases to use when meeting someone for the first time.
So now we know how to introduce ourselves and how to say where we're from and what we do for a living.
Just in case you forgot any of that, let's hear it in a conversation now.
Bonsoir,
Bonsoir.
je m'appelle Marie. Je suis française.
Enchanté, Marie. Je suis français et je m'appelle Marc. J'habite à Paris. Et toi?
J'habite à Bordeaux et je suis professeur.
Ah, je suis journaliste.
Okay, time to get chatting.
Let's pretend it's Saturday night and you just arrived at a party. You spot someone you've never met before, so you decide to walk over and introduce yourself.
Since it's evening, say good evening to your new friend. Excellent. Bonsoir.
The woman says, "Good evening," back.
Bonsoir.
So, after saying hello, what would be the best way to get this conversation going?
Well, you should probably get to know each other's names.
Exactly. And to ask for someone's name in French, we can say, "Comment tu t'appelles?"
We've already learned that comment means how, like in comment ça va?
And just like je m'appelle means my name is, or I call myself, comment tu t'appelles means how do you call yourself?
Which is another way of saying, what's your name? Comment tu t'appelles?
Okay, so go ahead and introduce yourself. When your new friend asks for your name, tell her, "My name is Michel," in French.
Comment tu t'appelles?
Fantastique. Je m'appelle Michel. But don't forget to ask your new friend's name too.
Yes, très important. This time, when she asks what your name is, say, my name is Michel. And you?
Comment tu t'appelles?
Bon travail. Je m'appelle Michel. Et toi?
Now, when the woman tells you her name, say you're delighted to meet her.
Je m'appelle Marie.
Oui. Enchanté, Marie.
Marie smiles and shakes your hand. Then she asks where you're from. Let's say you're from England. Try saying, I am English in French. Parfait. Je suis anglais.
It would also be good to tell Marie where you live. So say, I live in Paris in French. Parfait. J'habite à Paris.
But remember to return the question. After the bell, say, I live in Paris. And you? Excellent. J'habite à Paris. Et toi?
Then Marie explains where she lives and what she does for work.
Oh, j'habite à Bordeaux. Je suis journaliste.
After she tells you a bit more about her job as a journalist, she asks what you do. Say, I am a professor in French. Fantastique. Je suis professeur.
You continue to talk to Marie for a while and make plans to hang out again sometime.
Congratulations, you've just made a new friend.
And now you've learned some conversation starters in French, you're all set to make even more new friends.